What if we could build schools where discipline wasn't really about punishment, but about support? Well, today we're going to dive into a framework that's doing just that. It's transforming school cultures from the inside out by focusing on one really simple but incredibly powerful idea: prevention.
I mean, really think about that for a second. So much of how we usually think about school discipline is reactive, right? We wait for a problem to pop up, and then we deal with the fallout. But what if we could just flip that whole script? What if the goal wasn't just to manage misbehavior, but to actually create a culture where it's just less likely to happen in the first place?
And that's exactly where PBIS comes into the picture. It stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And here's the key thing to get. It's not some off-the-shelf curriculum or a single program. Think of it more like a framework, a proactive way of thinking that builds the social and behavioral foundation that helps all students succeed. So let's really break down what this huge shift from a reactive to a proactive culture actually looks like. It's a fundamental change in how we view student behavior. We're moving away from a mindset of just control and toward one of teaching and genuine support. So on one hand, you've got the traditional reactive approach. It zeroes in on the misbehavior, it's often punishment-based, and it kind of assumes that students should just already know how to act. But the proactive PBIS model, it focuses on the positive. It is all about teaching behavioral skills the same way we teach reading or math, so we can prevent problems before they even have a chance to start. Okay, so how does this whole proactive thing actually work in practice? Well, it's all built on a really solid foundation of 6 core principles that guide pretty much every decision. And here they are, the 6 pillars of PBIS. It all kicks off by clearly defining and then actually teaching the expectations. After that, you actively acknowledge and reinforce all the positive behavior you see. The whole process is driven by data, which tells you how to organize your systems of support. And of course, the big goal is always prevention, which is achieved through a multi-tiered approach that's designed to meet every single student's needs.
Now, that final pillar we just mentioned, that multi-tiered system, that is really the heart of PBIS. So let's take a closer look at how this structure makes sure every single student gets the right level of support at exactly the right time.
And here's the simple, powerful promise behind this model. It's all about moving away from that old one-size-fits-all approach to discipline. Instead, it provides a flexible framework for giving real, comprehensive support to every single student.
I want you to picture a pyramid. The base, the biggest part, that's Tier 1. This applies to everybody. These are the universal, school-wide expectations that work for about 80 to 90% of students. Now, for that smaller group that needs a bit more help, you have Tier 2, which is targeted support. And then at the very top, for the few students with the most significant needs, there's Tier 3, which is intensive, individualized support.
The logic here is pretty simple, right? If you build a really strong Tier 1 foundation, it's going to successfully support the vast majority of your students. And that's absolutely crucial because it frees up time, energy, and resources to provide that more focused, intensive help for the students who truly need it.
So this big chunk, 80 to 90%, really shows you the power of getting those universal supports right. This could be something as simple as a school-wide motto like be safe, be respectful, be responsible, that's taught and celebrated everywhere from the classroom to the lunch line.
Now for this next group, Tier 2 support might look something like a check-in, check-out system with a trusted adult each morning, or maybe a small lunch group that works specifically on social skills. It's more targeted.
And finally, for that 1 to 5% at the very top of the pyramid needing Tier 3 support, we're talking about intensive, highly individualized plans. This often involves things like a functional behavior assessment to really understand the why behind a student's behavior.
Okay, so that's the big picture theory, but what does this actually look like on, a random Tuesday morning in a real classroom? Let's zoom in and take a look.
So this right here is probably the most crucial idea to grasp. We would never, ever expect a student to solve a complex algebra problem if we haven't taught them the steps first. PBIS just applies that exact same logic to behavior. We can't just expect it, we have to teach it directly.
And this is an absolutely fantastic tool for doing just that. A behavior matrix takes an abstract idea like be respectful and makes it super concrete and actionable. Hey, during whole group time, being respectful means you listen when other people are talking. During independent work, it means using a quiet voice. See? It takes all the guesswork out of it for students. All right, let's put this into action with a super common problem.
a teacher is looking at their data, and they notice a really clear pattern. The classroom gets pretty chaotic right after lunch and recess. The old school reactive way might be to just start handing out detentions, but the PBIS approach is totally different. Instead of punishing, the teacher teaches. They create a simple, calm routine for how to come back into the classroom. They practice it with the students step by step. And then they give specific, positive feedback, like, "Wow, great job walking quietly to your desk, Maria," to reinforce that new skill. They are literally solving the problem before it can even start. Now, you might have noticed a key ingredient in that last example, and that was data. And that is no accident. Data isn't just some boring side piece of PBIS, it is literally the engine that makes the whole system run effectively. Data is what lets educators spot those patterns, like the chaos after recess. It's how they know if their proactive teaching strategies are actually working. And maybe most importantly, it helps them understand what students really need, making sure that the support they give is fair, effective, and truly helpful. And when you put it all together, this is the massive shift that PBIS creates. It completely reframes the entire conversation around student behavior. When you're powered by data and a proactive mindset, the question stops being, how should we punish this? And it becomes, how can we support this? So we'll leave you with this question to think about. At the end of the day, behavior is a form of communication. What could we learn and what incredible potential could we unlock if we truly started listening to what the data is telling us about what our students need?